Hey, friends, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you are doing well and that you have been having an amazing week. I want to talk with you today about this idea of caring for ourselves and just how I have noticed a lot of times whenever we have children who have extra needs, the priority for caring for ourselves kind of gets put on the back burner, which is totally understandable. But let's talk about some ways that we can start to make time to actually care for ourselves and why it's so important that we do that. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast. This podcast is for moms who are parenting differently abled children. Maybe you desire to switch to a more natural lifestyle to improve your family's health, but you have no idea where to start. You're longing for more routines and time, but every time you try to implement those tips that you've spent hours researching, you realize that they don't work for your family dynamics. Hi, I'm Ashley. In this podcast, we will focus on implementing routines, switching to a more natural lifestyle, and uprooting those old mindsets that are keeping you stuck, so that you can plant yourself firmly in the truth that Jesus offers you. Our focus will be on creating small, customizable changes that will build upon one another over time to create real impact in your life. If you want to hear from a mama who has been raising several children with special needs and who knows how important it is to do this in a way that's sustainable and that doesn't add to your overwhelm, then this is the podcast for you. Pop in those earbuds, reheat that coffee for the third time, and let's go. All right, so what I have noticed, and it was really interesting because as I started to get ready to do this podcast, I reached out to some people and asked if I could just ask them some questions. I was just trying to get to know you guys better and just to know what was going on in your minds and in your hearts. And the pattern that I saw repeatedly was the fact that I would reach out to different people and I would ask them questions about themselves, because really the focus and the heart that the Lord has given me for this podcast is to help you as moms. And so I would ask these different questions, and what I realized was that I was struggling to get all of these moms to answer questions about themselves and what they needed. Even when I would ask them a question about themselves, it would typically end up getting turned back to something about their children and helping their children. And I found it really interesting because I am the exact same way and I related to it so much. And it also showed me how we have this deeper need to care for ourselves that we often just don't see because we are so consumed with caring for our children. And especially, as moms, as great, loving, wonderful moms, of course we're consumed with caring for our children. This is not anything to say someone should feel bad about that, because I think it's extremely important that we care for our children. The thing that I've noticed is whenever you have a child who has extra needs, a lot of times that feeling is amplified. And a lot of times we go into this mode of problem solving and of trying to fix things and of trying to help our child no matter the cost. And sometimes the cost is our own physical and mental health. And I do think that we have to be wise in making sure that we're balancing those two things of helping our children, but also caring for ourselves. However, as a mom who has 3 children who do have extra needs, I understand the struggle of balancing those things. I understand how easy it is to fall back into just being consumed with helping our kids and to really just put ourselves on the back burner. And so I just wanted to have an honest conversation about this struggle, how it is a struggle, and how we will honestly burn ourselves into the ground just trying to help our kids. And it's such a beautiful thing that we love our kids so much that we want the best for them. But the thing that I have discovered is that if I am my best, that is when I can actually offer my children the best. So if I am just solely focusing on them and burning myself out, and I'm not caring for myself in the area of like moving my body, of giving myself food for me, I forget to eat. So I can go pretty much all day and not eat, and then my blood sugar crashes, and then I'm grumpy because I have low blood sugar. And it's just this vicious cycle that I finally had to realize that I was actually the problem, and that me taking care of everyone else and not making a priority for myself to feed myself the food that my body needs in order to continue on, that it was not going to work anymore, that I had to place priority on feeding myself good, healthy foods. I have an autoimmune disease, so a lot of times I'm having a long list of foods that I'm cross-reacting to, which means sometimes it can be very difficult to find a food that doesn't cause some kind of reaction in my body. And so therefore, I just placed like no priority on it. Like I just won't eat it all because I don't have time to deal with eating food whenever it's so difficult to find food to eat. And I have all of these tiny humans to care for. And I'm sure that many of you have fallen into the same kind of just pattern, basically. And maybe not specifically with food, but maybe it's in the area of caring for your mental health. Maybe it is caring for yourself, like as far as moving your body and exercising. Maybe it is like me, just not even making the time to eat at all, or not making the time to feed yourself foods that you know are going to be nourishing to your body. And that's why I've become so passionate about a product that I use, and I've mentioned it before, a couple of different products that deal with oxidative stress and also mitochondrial health, because I do have health issues myself, and I have to find ways to help my body to function the best way possible. And so I will use these products from LifeVantage in order to help myself to be the best person that I can be for my kids. Because whenever I feel well, I can care for everyone else well. Whenever my cells are functioning properly and I'm not dealing with constant brain fog and low energy, then I can show up for my kids and actually help them and be present in the way that I want to. And, that oftentimes it does require energy, and it requires designating that money, those finances, to caring for ourselves too. And we often want to only allot those things to our kids. And I had to realize that I had to place a priority on caring for myself too. So one way I do that is by taking these products. I love them because they're science-backed, they are award-winning, and I have seen consistent results not only for myself, but also for my children. Especially for my kids in the area of being able to lower the amount of supplements that we're taking every month. So that also means lowering the amount of finances that we're putting towards supplements, which has been amazing. But then also, in the areas of being able to focus, of speech, just all of these different things that have been an amazing benefit for my kids. But then on top of that, whenever I'm also consistently prioritizing taking them myself, I'm also seeing wonderful benefits for myself too, in the area of brain fog, of energy, just feeling better, feeling like I have that motivation to get up and go for the day. And I'm often very skeptical about trying new things, but the extensive peer-reviewed independent studies that have been done on these products just really won me over to the point of saying, okay, we will give this a try, and we will give this a try for an extended period of time to see how is this going to help us. And I have just been blown away at the results that we have seen. And that's what I'm just so passionate about, is the fact that I know if you can feel better, if you can activate your cells and your cells can heal, then you're going to be able to show up better for your family. And at the end of the day, that's really what we want. We want to see progress for our kids. We want to make sure that we're giving it all to help our children. And that is such a wonderful goal to have. But if we only focus on that and we don't focus on also taking care of ourselves, then it is making it so much harder for us to actually reach that goal that we want to reach, which is to help our children. If you have questions about these products, you're welcome to reach out to me. You can either email me or you can DM me on Facebook or Instagram. You could also just check out the description for this episode, and I actually have links to the products there so you can read about them. It's just something that I have become so passionate about because for so long, I just felt like I was just dragging to get through the day and just spending a lot of money on supplements and things like that, struggling to keep up with all of that. And then once I consistently got on these for several months, over time, I finally started to realize, oh my goodness, I have so much more energy. I feel so much better. And it is so easy to get stuff done when you feel well. It is so easy to stay motivated when you feel well. It is a lot easier to help a child who is struggling with a difficult emotion or who is possibly just struggling with honestly testing boundaries. It's easier to remain patient when you feel well, when you're well rested, whenever you have energy. And so that's what I want for you guys as well, is for you to be able to feel well. And then on top of that, not only to feel well, but to understand that it's not wrong to care for yourself. It is not selfish to care for yourself. Like I said earlier, I actually think that we have to understand the importance of caring for ourselves, because we can't expect to show up as our best self for our families whenever we're not caring for ourselves. A lot of times, especially as Christian women, we love our families, we love the Lord, we want to serve others. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But kind of the opposite end of that can be that we can serve others so much that we forget that we have to care for ourselves and we have to steward our own bodies well. And the Lord has given us our bodies to steward, and He wants us to steward them well. They are the things that we use to get about this life and to impact others around us. So the importance of stewarding our bodies well, really, it's just vital for everything we want to do in life. So if you find yourself struggling with a bit of guilt for the thought that you should make time to take care of yourself, I would just challenge you to sit with the Lord and pray on it and try to get to the bottom of why that is. What is the belief or the lie that you have been told or that you're telling yourself that makes you feel like for you to spend your resources, whether that be time or financial, on yourself is something that is wrong? And I've been there before. And so this is not in any kind of way like a condemnation or judgmental statement. It's just we have to be honest about what's actually going on in our hearts and in our minds. And then we really just have to sit with the Lord and try to get to the root of, why do I believe this lie? Was it something someone else said to me? Was it something I've been telling myself? Is it something that maybe I heard some kind of scripture that was twisted into something that's not true? You know, we can take things to extremes a lot of times. Yes, we should be servants to others, but that doesn't mean we do it to the point of neglecting our own health. And so just really sitting with that and figuring out what is going on for you in that area. I think if we can get to the point where we understand that investing in ourselves with time and with our resources is money well spent, that is an extremely freeing place to get to. That it's okay, like to invest in yourself is using your resources well. Obviously, we always want to have a giving spirit as well. I'm not talking about selfish, just consumerism. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about investing in yourself for growth, investing in yourself for health, investing in yourself so that you can impact and serve others around you. When we can see the value in that and realize that whatever the cost of that is, whether it's feeling discomfort as we're learning and growing in new skills, whether it's spending money, whether it's spending time, whether it's having difficult conversations with people, all of that work is well spent in order for you to invest in yourself, to grow into the person that the Lord has you to be. And a lot of times we get so focused on caring for our beautiful children that we neglect these things. And then we feel so lost. We feel like we are not even our own person anymore. Like we are just the person who takes care of the home and takes care of the kids and runs people here, runs people there, makes dinner. And I just don't feel that that is what the Lord has for us. I believe strongly and I feel very privileged to be a mother and to care for my home. That is not something I despise at all. I also think at the same time, I can have impact on the world around me. I also think at the same time, I can take care of myself and I can steward my friendships well. I can steward my marriage well. These things don't have to be mutually exclusive. And with that thought, I would just challenge you to sit and to think about what is one thing that you can do to reclaim your identity as yourself. Not as a mom, not as a wife, not as a friend, but just as you who loves the Lord, who loves to do whatever it is you love to do. What is one even if it's very small, even if it's something that requires very little time of you, but it's one intentional step for you to say, this is me, this is what I love to do, and I'm going to make some kind of priority to care for myself or to pick back up this hobby that I really love. You know, things I think of for myself would be like starting this podcast. This was a way for me to say, I love my family. I love investing in my family. I love homeschooling my kids. I love being present for all of this. And at the same time, I feel like the Lord has greater impact for me outside of my home. And I believe I can do both as long as I'm using discernment and following the Lord. I think of like my gardening. And yes, I include my family in my gardening. It's a great way. But it's also something that I just really love and I really enjoy. It gives me a great sense of peace and joy. And that's something for me as well. Do I combine it with things from my family? Absolutely. But when I walk outside and I see the flowers that I have planted it just brings joy to my heart. So that's for me. I also think of things like making time for friends and making time to just talk with other people, making time to invest in new friendships. There are just these different ways that you can find. You're going to be different than me. Maybe your thing isn't gardening. Maybe you don't feel the Lord calling you to start a podcast, but there is something that the Lord has more for you in an area that you have not been prioritizing it because you have been so focused on doing all the things for all the people around you, specifically trying to help your kids with whatever struggle they're currently having. And it's okay to help your kids and also move forward with what it is that the Lord is saying. Hey, I have more for you here. And you're too distracted instead of leaning on me and trusting me that I know where your children need to be. And yes, do what you feel is right to do for your kids, but leave the results up to the Lord. It's not resting on you to take care of. And then try to find these areas that help you to remember who you are as a person. I hope that this has encouraged you. And I just want to say, I have been here more times, more than once, honestly. I feel like it is a constant battle to not fall back into that. It's really about developing some skills to be self-aware, to realize what's going on in my home, in my heart, in my life. And then I feel like also just making sure we're spending that time with the Lord to have discernment about what He is or is not calling us to. And I also feel like that really ties into discernment for what the Lord is or is not calling us to for different resources to help our children. Because a lot of times we can get so busy doing all the things that we've actually overwhelmed ourselves in our schedules. And it's not even something the Lord called us to do in the first place. So I've been there as well. I'm speaking from experience because I desperately love my children. And I want to do anything possible to help them. And so sometimes I get ahead of the Lord without praying and using discernment about what He has for me. And then I end up in a situation where I'm extremely overwhelmed. I feel like I've lost myself because I am so overburdened with my schedule and with this consuming desire to help my children have happy, healthy, wonderful lives. And that's whenever I have to step back and be honest and say, I've actually taken the reins and I think it's my job to make sure that my children have happy, healthy, wonderful lives instead of trusting in the Lord. And I have to realize, okay, I have let caring for myself, prioritizing my health, I have let that go on the back burner because I've become so fixated on helping everyone else around me. And I just have to remind myself, I can't help anyone else if I'm not taking care of myself. I can try, I can halfway do it, but I'm not going to be able to do it to the best of my ability if I am not caring for myself. And so I hope that this has encouraged you. Like I said, this is just from a mama who's been there many, many times, fallen, had to get back up, do the thing again, fallen again. It's just part of life. We grow, we learn, we make mistakes, we learn from those mistakes. The Lord is just continually teaching us and growing us. And honestly, there's so much beauty in that. And it's something that I have grown to appreciate and to have a lot more grace for myself whenever I do fall, because I know that we all do. It's just part of being human. And I'm thankful for the Lord's mercy and for His goodness to me and for the fact that He so gently just guides me along the path and reminds me and just teaches me. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you guys back next week. Hey, before you go, if you found value in today's episode or you learned something new, would you take a minute to share with someone else that you know would be blessed by it? I would also love it if you would leave me a review. This lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and I love hearing from you. You can connect with me further over on Facebook or Instagram. Until next time, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, and be constantly in prayer. Romans 12:12.